This video is brought to you by PayPal Honey, the world's leading shopping tool that finds you deals and discounts even when you aren't looking for them. Click the link below to install Honey and immediately start saving, or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers, it's a big day, the #1 event in gaming's calendar, Valentine's Day. I hope you're spending it with someone special, be it your missus, your boyfriend, your crush, or you know, Garrus from Mass Effect. We could all do far worse than Garrus Vakarian, let me tell you. Whatever you're doing this Valentine's Day, I hope it's not getting in the way of your video games, because holy shit, there's a lot of them this week. February has loomed large for months now, as every publisher thought it would be a good idea to stack most of the biggest releases of 2022 into the last 2 weeks of February. And sure enough, here we are, absolutely inundated with stuff to play and barely enough time to play it. And that's just the stuff that's out this week. That doesn't even include the news that dropped, of which there was a lot. Speaking of which, did you guys see Nintendo's latest webinar? Biggest story of the week was of course the Nintendo Direct, so let's take a quick squeeze at some of the biggest announcements from Team Red. The show opened very strongly indeed with a chunky gameplay trailer for Pikmin 4. It looks like a damn good time, channeling all the cutesy charm that defined the original games, only now looking slightly better. I mean, it's the Switch we're talking about here. It's like a slightly more powerful GameCube you can fit in your pocket. One thing we weren't expecting for Pikmin 4 was a release date, since the initial tease made it sound like this was still some ways off. But hey, Nintendo ain't messing around with this one, as Pikmin 4 will launch July 21st this year. That is very soon, to be honest, and it's always nice to be pleasantly surprised with a release window. More on that theme later. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is getting a new DLC character, some modes, and the final DLC pack will bring in characters from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Love that. Samba de Amigo is back. Finally, a real use for the Joy-Con's gyro feature. That is dropping Northern Summer this year. The Dead Cells Castlevania crossover is looking absolutely sick. This was our first look at gameplay, and just hell yes to all of this. This got a release date as well, March 6th. Keep in mind that this is not exclusive to Nintendo Switch, so if you're on other platforms, you will be able to enjoy this as well. Tron Identity is a very weird one, but I am interested. It's a narrative-led puzzle game set in the Tron universe. Definitely not the sort of genre you typically associate with this universe, but this game comes from Mike Bithell, maker of the Solitaire Conspiracy, so if anyone's going to be able to pull it off, it's him. This one is coming to Nintendo Switch first, sometime in April, other platforms after that. One of the most hype-inducing announcements was for a game you've probably never heard of. Ghost Trick is a puzzle game from the creator of the Ace Attorney series, and in it you have to solve the mystery of your own identity and murder. The game saw a very limited initial reception, but went on to achieve cult status, making the Nintendo DS carts highly prized by collectors. Well, now everyone's going to be able to experience it at a more reasonable price, as Capcom announced a remaster which will hit all platforms sometime mid this year. I never played it back in the day, so I'm very keen to experience this one for myself. Level 5 is a studio we haven't heard much from lately, but this is the studio behind bangers like Dark Cloud, Ni no Kuni, and Professor Layton. They revealed their next project here, and I gotta say, it caught my eye. It's called Deca Police, and it's a crime-solving game crossed with JRPG combat. It's all set in a futuristic metaverse rendition of Japan. Huge amounts of personality in this one already, but bottom line, I just trust this studio to make cool shit, so I'm down. No date, but it's slated for sometime in 2023. Oh, and speaking of Professor Layton, your boy is coming back. It was only a teaser trailer, but Professor Layton and the new world of Steam showcased our top-hatted hero hanging out in a gorgeous steampunk world. No release window for this one at all. Hopefully it's not too far away. Don't Nod, makers of the Life is Strange series, revealed their next title. It's called Harmony: The Fall of Reverie, and it's a big step away from the more grounded, real-life angst that Don't Nod are best known for. Trailer didn't give too much away other than it's hitting all platforms sometime in June this year. Advance Wars 1+2 got a release date. The remaster of the classic games had been shelved sometime back, with Nintendo unwilling to offer any revised date until this Direct, where they revealed that the package will arrive on the 21st of April. This is looking absolutely superb. I loved Advance Wars back in the day. Definitely very keen for this. Sea of Stars. Man, if this isn't on your radar yet, it absolutely should be. It's from Sabotage Studio, makers of the excellent The Messenger. It's looking absolutely lovely, and they've managed to secure Yasunori Mitsuda as guest composer for the soundtrack. This is the dude behind stuff like Chrono Trigger and Xenoblade, and he does not miss. Sea of Stars is hitting Switch, PlayStation, and PC on August 29th. The upcoming Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is getting a Magolor-centered epilogue. It's its own separate chapter with new levels and a whole new progression system for Magolor as he regains his powers. It's a nice addition for a package that's already looking great. Getting to the business end of things now, Nintendo's online subscription service has always been the butt of many a joke, but a lot of that laughing stopped when it was revealed that Nintendo were bringing a whole host of classic Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games to the service. The Game Boy list includes the usual suspects, stuff like Tetris, Super Mario Land, and Metroid 2, but it's the Game Boy Advance list that's got everyone talking, featuring legendary titles like the original WarioWare, Mario Kart Super Circuit, and The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap, one of the more overlooked Zelda entries. That whole lineup is live on the Nintendo Online service right now. That is one hell of a shadow drop. But that shadow drop is nothing compared to what came next. For years and years now, we've been begging Papa Mario to remaster or at least re-release the Metroid Prime trilogy, and while we didn't get the whole trilogy, we did get the first game. And we really got it, because it was made playable just a few hours after the show ended. I'll admit that I thought this would be just a basic touch-up and re-release, but holy hell, that is not the case. Completely revised controls are just the starting point. The visual uplift here is crazy. The video you're seeing here is from GameSpot, and it showcases just how much better this looks. And this is like now one of the best looking games on the Switch at this point, for real. I can't believe how much effort has gone into this, well and truly more than anyone would have expected. So massive props to Nintendo for going all in on this one, and I very much look forward to them completing the trilogy over the coming months. Let's hope that happens. At minute 40-ish, we're all getting a little nervous, but luckily Nintendo finished the show just as we hoped they would. Roll it, Austin.
Rise, my servants. Sweep over Hyrule. Eliminate this kingdom and her allies. Leave no survivors!
Tears of the Kingdom looks to be what Majora's Mask was to Ocarina. Darker, grittier, kind of messed up, and potentially better? I mean, we won't know until we get our hands on it for ourselves, of course, but the brilliance of Majora's Mask was that they were able to leverage the best parts of Ocarina and then remix all of that with tons of crazy ideas. Just straight up genius game design right the way through. It's optimistic to hope the same thing will happen here, but we hope nonetheless. The trailer was accompanied by a confirmation of that release date, May 12th, and while it still may slip, I think it's a pretty safe bet to consider it 100% locked at this point, which is awesome because the only other game releasing that month is Redfall on the 2nd of May, and then the next one is Street Fighter 6 on the 2nd of June. So we've got a hell of a lot of time to play Zelda. One other confirmation we got from this announcement was that Tears of the Kingdom would be the first ever $70 first-party Nintendo title. That news was leaked when the price went up on multiple storefronts prior to the reveal, and it was confirmed later when the eShop itself listed Tears of the Kingdom at $70. People were, well, mixed about this. There were certainly some who thought it was outrageous and that a price bump felt like a cash grab, especially in the absence of a hardware update. But on the other hand, Zelda games have always been some of the best, most well-made titles across all of video games, and given that they don't have any in-game spending and the expansion pass is relatively good value for what it offers, maybe $70 isn't so bad. I mean, I personally don't mind publishers charging an extra tenner for their games so long as those games work and they don't have any in-game spending. The problem is that most AAA games released these days don't work on day one or long after that, and they're stuffed full to bursting with in-game spending. I mean, look at Ubisoft titles. They want to charge $70 up front while selling XP boosters and skins and endgame gear. Bitch, please. But when Nintendo asked for an extra $10 for a Zelda game after literal decades of charging only $60 for them with no in-game spending, to be honest, I'm kind of okay with that. I'm even more okay with it when I read headlines like this. Nintendo promises 10% pay hike even as it trims profit outlook. At a time when US-based tech companies are indiscriminately slashing jobs despite making record profits, at a time when most game publishers are initiating wage freezes, hiring freezes, and redundancy programs because they didn't hit quarterly earnings targets, Nintendo is out there holding on to all of its workers, paying them more, and making less profit. That is an extremely cool thing to be doing, and I wish more game makers would follow their example. In this very specific regard, by the way, do not follow Nintendo's example of DMCA striking the nation of Italy because it has too many citizens named Mario. Nintendo's wage policy good, Nintendo's legal department bad. Changing gears from red to green, there's been some big news in the current battle over Activision Blizzard, with Microsoft in one corner pressing hard for regulators to approve their acquisition, and Flying Jim Ryan of Sony in the other corner doing everything in his power to stop it. Last week, Microsoft's hopes were dealt a serious blow when the UK CMA handed down their preliminary report on the proposed transaction, concluding that the deal may hurt UK gamers if it went through. Oddly enough, they pointed to cloud gaming as an area of concern, since Microsoft holds significant market share there owing to the fact that Sony and Nintendo really haven't done much work in that space. So yeah, obviously Microsoft have market share. but cloud still represents a tiny fraction of the overall gaming landscape, so it's somewhat odd for the CMA to zero in on this as a major concern. It should be noted this report is not the UK attempting to block the deal, it's just them laying out potential issues. The authority will later determine whether or not it approves the transaction, and yeah, that's looking anything but certain at this point, especially when you've got the US-based FTC suing to block the deal and the EU expressing their own concerns. This is a very big, high-stakes gamble for Uncle Phil, and it's anyone's guess if he's going to be able to pull it off. Speaking of cloud gaming, you guys remember Luna? Probably not, so here's a refresher. Luna is Amazon's play in the cloud gaming space, offering a select library of games categorized in different channels. So you could subscribe to the Ubisoft channel, for example, giving you the ability to play a selection of Ubisoft games through the cloud. Anyway, long story short, this platform doesn't seem to be gaining much momentum. Amazon are generally pretty tight-lipped about it, they don't advertise it much, and they haven't done much to integrate it into the Twitch ecosystem, which you'd think would be a slam dunk for a technology like this. It certainly doesn't help that the Luna library is rapidly shrinking. This month, 50 games will leave the service and only 2 new games will join it, and both of those new additions are smaller indie titles. This doesn't speak to Amazon's desire for a rapidly expanding platform, it kind of looks like the opposite. I'm not suggesting that Luna is going to follow Stadia to that big server farm in the sky, but it's curious that after nearly 2 years on the market, Luna has left no notable footprint and its library continues to shrink. Watch this space, I guess, plenty more disruption in the cloud gaming space to be had before that segment finds its equilibrium. Something else not hitting its sales targets is Marvel's Midnight Suns, and I gotta say, this one's a bit of a bummer. Jason Schreier of Bloomberg sat down with the guy who sues people for making perfectly legal GTA mods, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick. Schreier described Midnight Suns as a commercial flop, though he didn't give the exact quote from Zelnick on that one, though Zelnick did say, quote, "It's possible the release window wasn't perfect," end quote. I don't know, man, it released during the normal holiday window. I don't think the release timing was the problem with that one. I mean, if I was to hazard a guess, I'd say it was a combination of superhero fatigue and the not great writing that comprised about 50% of the overall experience. It's a genuine shame because the gameplay side of Midnight Suns is absolutely superb. I keep thinking about it, and my appreciation for it only grows as I play more strategy titles and think to myself, man, I wish this was more like Midnight Suns. Optimistically, Zelnick hopes that the game will find long-tail success, which is common for Firaxis titles, and I hope it does, because Firaxis are a great studio and they deserve to be successful in whatever they do. And hopefully the next whatever they do is XCOM 3, because that would be cool. While we're on that subject actually, you might have heard that James Gunn, the new star of the DC Cinematic Universe, has outlined his vision for the universe going forward. It's some pretty cool stuff, despite what the Snyder fans would have you believe, but one of the more interesting things he said was that in the future, actors cast in roles would fill those roles across all transmedia. So the movie actor would also be the voice actor in a cartoon or the voice actor in a video game. Now that sounds cool until you reach the part where movie actors get paid a shit ton more money than voice actors. Plus, they also have very different working schedules and they're just very different beasts. It's an issue that was pointed to by the director of Marvel's Midnight Suns and XCOM, Jake Solomon. Quote, "This would have been a nightmare for us on Midnight Suns. I understand the desire, I think, but movies and games are so different, and the pressure this puts on the amazing voice actors in the game space, different universes, and that's how they should, will stay," end quote. James Gunn also paints a rather idealized picture where games can be delivered in between movies to flesh out side stories or introduce new characters. But if you listen to what he says, I think it betrays a lot of ignorance around the way games today are made, how long it takes to make them, and how expensive that development process has become. I think Gunn is in for a rude surprise when he sits down for his first meeting planning out some AAA Superman game, only to be told that the earliest it could be delivered is 2028 and it'll cost $200 million. A quick lightning round to finish off. All of the controversy surrounding Hogwarts Legacy has done absolutely nothing to slow its sales. The title broke a streaming record to become the most concurrently watched single-player game ever with 1.3 million viewers on Twitch and nearly 900,000 concurrent players on Steam during the launch weekend. That puts Hogwarts in the same league as Cyberpunk and Elden Ring as one of the most successful single-player launches in video game history. So you can bet that a sequel is on the way, and we get to do this discourse all over again. Yay. The director of Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed Black Flag, aka The Best One, has left Ubisoft. After 17 years in the job, veteran designer Jean Gaston announced in an email to Ubisoft staff that he was leaving the company. His departure appears to be amicable, with Ubisoft wishing him well. No word yet on what he's doing next. Hopefully he makes an unofficial Black Flag sequel, because Ubisoft sure as shit ain't gonna do it. And yeah, Skull and Bones exists, but that only reinforces my point. It doesn't rebut it. Premier League is about to close a 6-year, $500 million deal with EA Games to continue their game-making partnership. The deal is said to be worth double what the previous deal was worth, and was so lucrative that it helped convince potential defectors from joining the European Super League back in 2021. It comes as EA's partnership with FIFA collapsed, owing to FIFA being literally the greediest, most corrupt entity on the planet. And you just know you really pulled some shit when you're the bad guy in a deal with EA. The Evil Within 3 may be on the way. This week, a potential Easter egg was spotted in Tango's recently shadow-dropped Hi-Fi Rush. It's subtle, but it does say on screen, quote, "Sequel to popular survival horror franchise announced," end quote. This is the studio that makes the Evil Within series, with the second game achieving cult status despite not selling through the roof. Given that we don't currently know what Tango are working on, it's certainly more than possible that all of this is true. PUBG Studios is working on an Escape from Tarkov competitor. The project is currently codenamed Project Black Budget, and I don't know about you guys, but putting the word budget into a codename makes stuff immediately less sexy, like Budget 007. See what I mean? Anyway, this new game is an extraction-type shooter similar to Tarkov or Marauders or Hunt Showdown. No date yet, but it is scheduled to launch sometime in 24 or 25, so no time soon. The Alan Wake 2 remake is coming along nicely, it seems. Remedy's CEO Tero Vertola said, quote, "Alan Wake 2 is in full production. The game will soon have all content in place and is playable from start to finish," end quote. That is great news. The bad news, the Alan Wake remake has yet to generate any royalties. I wonder if that has anything to do with being exclusive to the Epic Games Store. And finally, Bungle, makers of the game we all love to hate, are seeking $12 million in damages from a cheat provider by the name of Veteran Cheats. Hopefully they clap those cheats and get every damn penny, but cheat makers are tricksy and big payouts in these sorts of cases are rare. Let's hope that Bungie's legal team takes this case from the courthouse to the lighthouse. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, the last case of Benedict Fox was first revealed during Summer Games Fest last year. It garnered plenty of attention and enthusiasm owing to its art style and unique spin on the 2D platform formula. Went a little quiet after that initial reveal, but it's popped back up now with a new trailer and a release date, April 27th for Xbox and Steam. Leap is a first-person team shooter that released last year on Steam. It's got a lot of Tribes energy with a big focus on aerial combat and large-scale assaults. Sadly, it never picked up much momentum on Steam, and it's at a 51% positive ratings, so it's far from a critical darling. Still, the developers are taking a swing at the console space and are going to release the game on PlayStation and Xbox on March 1st. If you do want to play the game, make sure you get in nice and early, because yeah, you know how these games can sometimes go. Here's one that I'm very pumped about, Everspace 2. The title has been in early access for a while, and it's been getting fantastic feedback right the way through. The team has dropped a number of major updates in that time, but their work appears to be done, as an official 1.0 release date has just been announced, April 6th for PC and Xbox, where it will be day one on Game Pass. Judas got a reveal at the Game Awards last year. This is the one that Jeff Keighley was so excited about that he slowed down to like 3 words a minute as he was announcing it. To be fair though, this is the next game from Ken Levine, the dude behind the Bioshock series. He left his former studio, set up a whole new one, and this is the game he's been working on for like 6 years. Well, there's still a few more years to go, it seems, as publisher 2K announced an official release window, March 2025. Man, that really sounds like the future in more ways than one. Final announcement for the week is an absolute doozy. Y'all know Yoko Taro, the absolute madman behind the Nier series, famed for his nihilistic worldview and love of, well, boobies and high heels. Well, Sega came to this man and gave him a bunch of money to make a game, and here's what he came up with. A mobile gacha game where the characters you collect are hot anime personifications of classic Sega titles. So, like, there's an Afterburner girl, there's an Outrun girl, there's a Virtua Fighter girl, and there isn't one yet, but there is sure to be a Sonic girl at some point, and God help everyone on social media the day she arrives. Best of all, the villain in this Sega-published video game is Sega. It's a vision of the future where Sega is so successful that it becomes this evil mega corporation, which is, you know, really the inevitable end state of any successful video game company, so that's actually the least imaginative aspect of the whole package. The game is called 404 Game Reset. It's in Japan only at the moment. I hope to God they bring it to the West. Only one delay announcement this week, and it's for my old stomping ground, The Division 2. Massive had the game on life support for a long ass time, but recently recommitted to a seasonal release model, only they hit a big snag, and their next season has been delayed indefinitely while they try to figure out how to fix their build generation system, which they somehow broke. Sounds like kind of a big deal. I love Massive, but it's a little funny knowing that things are sort of right where I left them back when I stopped playing the game. Catastrophic bugs and delays for The Division. Makes me feel downright nostalgic. So what's coming out this week? Well, for months and months, I've been telling you that February was a veritable tsunami of releases. The wave was building this past 2 weeks, and it crashes now, as this is one of the largest, most packed release weeks we're likely to see this year. First up, we'll start small and cute with Blanc, the gorgeous-looking narrative-led adventure game starring a wolf cub and a fawn, who luckily are too young to know what nature has in store for them, and for now they must work together to escape a frozen tundra. This one is looking delightful, and it arrives on the Switch and PC today. Journey to the Savage Planet was a short, sweet, and funny 3D platform adventure title from a little whiles back. I reviewed it and recommended it. It's only a couple of hours long. It's a great time. It arrives on current-gen consoles today. This version also includes their Hot Garbage DLC. That's the name of it, by the way. That's not me taking a swing. They literally called it Hot Garbage, so respect for that. Wanted Dead is our first major release of the week that you'd be forgiven for never having heard of it. This is a new action game from some former Team Ninja developers who set up a new outfit called Soleil Limited. This is their first game, and it's being published by 110 Industries, who I've never heard of before, and yeah, they really aren't doing this title a lot of favors because the marketing push behind this has been basically non-existent. This obviously presents itself as a nuts to butts action title. I will say that I've spoken to one person who's played this, and they didn't have many nice things to say about it. In fact, they had nothing nice to say about it, so if you're weighing up a purchase on this one, it might be best to wait for reviews. Shouldn't have to wait long though, as this drops for all platforms bar the Switch today. 10 Dates is the sequel to rom-com simulator 5 Dates. It's twice the dates and twice the awkward rejection, I guess. It hits all platforms today, Valentine's Day. What a coincidence. In case you're wondering, this does not have any connection to that sleazy Super Seducer game that Valve ended up banning. Damn, that one really takes me back. A little while ago, I mentioned that Pharaoh remaster that hits PC tomorrow. You know what else hits PC tomorrow? Returnal. Damn man, the Master Race are in for a treat with this one. When I reviewed Returnal on the PS5 some time back, it was one of my games of the year, an intoxicating mix of stunning visuals, fantastic enemy design, deep, rewarding arcade-style combat, and literally the best sound design of any game that year. Just a truly incredible game to play and listen to. Finally making its way to PC. Really can't recommend this one enough. If you're at all interested, just take a chance, going totally blind. Trust me, you will love it. Here's a nice surprise. Shadow Warrior 3 arrives on current-gen consoles on the 16th, and bonus round, it's hitting Game Pass. The third entry in the series isn't exactly a barn burner, and it certainly had its fair share of detractors, but more than enough people enjoy it for its simple, cathartic, Doom-inspired shenanigans, and the Game Pass price tag makes it a lot easier to look past any of its shortcomings. Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line is a package so big it can scarcely be believed. The base package for this Square Enix-themed rhythm game includes 385 songs. 385! And that's just the start, as hundreds more songs are already promised as planned DLC. It looks like a simple rhythm game, but it's certainly one that'll keep you going for a long ass time if you plan to play through all of the content it has to offer. This one drops for the PS4 and the Switch on the 16th. Tales of Symphonia is joining the remaster gravy train, and it drops for all consoles on the 17th. Ubisoft is reviving that old Settlers franchise, but again, you'd be forgiven for not knowing that since the title is called New Allies and has had very little in the way of promotion. It's not coming to Steam because it's exclusive to the Epic Games Store and Uplay. Ubisoft's insistence on Epic exclusives continues to hurt the chances of those titles succeeding. Hopefully they get this one to Steam at some point in the future. And finally, biggest release of the week and the one that I'm most excited for, Wild Hearts arrives on current-gen consoles and PC on the 17th. This is EA's answer to Monster Hunter, only it's being developed by Koei Tecmo, who certainly know what they're doing when it comes to melee action titles. Not too many developers have dared take a swing at the Monster Hunter formula since Capcom's juggernaut seems so entrenched at this point, so I respect any dev willing to get in there and have a crack. To be fair though, these guys have made this sort of game in the past, so this is not the first time for them. I'm not expecting Wild Hearts to be better than Monster Hunter. I'll just settle for something competent that has plenty of new ideas. If this is just a straight up copy and paste job, then that'll be a real waste of everyone's time. But if Koei can bring some new ideas to shake up the genre a little, I'll consider that a big win. I'm playing through this one right now. I'm going to have my review up in the next few days, so if you'd like to know the minute that goes live, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and ding the notification bell. Also, you may as well click the like button while you're in the area. Can't hurt, right? Yeah. Alright, I know we've seen a little bit of this already courtesy of that PlayStation showcase, but if you haven't, put this on your radar.
Approach only at your own risk.
This is Pacific Drive, and this week I was lucky enough to sit down with a few of the developers, and they gave me a 30-minute hands-off tour of what they've been building. When we first saw it, I think we all assumed that it was a survival horror game, but in your car. That's not quite true. It's more accurate to say that it's a survival game where the objective is to keep your jalopy running long enough to solve the mystery of why this slice of the world suddenly looks like the ninth circle of hell. The developers showcase some of the dangers of the open road, like unexpected seismic activity, like random saw blades that patrol back and forth across the landscape, as well as sticky-fingered poltergeist things that steal parts off your car and you need to track them down and kill them to get them back. The whole thing is looking really awesome, to be honest. I was very keen for this going into the preview, but coming out, it shot up to be one of my most anticipated titles of the year. It's just doing cool, interesting things with a focus on emergent gameplay and storytelling, and you're hooning around in this wood-paneled station wagon. I love it. Pacific Drive is getting some marketing pump from Sony, but this is an indie title, which is why I'm profiling it here in this block. Obviously, it'll arrive on PS5 at some point later in the year, but they've just announced that it's also coming to PC, and if you'd like to wishlist it or just learn more about it, I've left a link to it over on my Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other put this on your radar stuff I've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and we don't have a huge amount to cover off this week as we're in the middle of the month. We do have our regular epic refresh though. Right now you can still grab Restaurant Simulator Recipe for Disaster, but later in the week that'll disappear, replaced by War Pips, a tug-of-war strategy game that has some very solid reviews on Steam. I don't know why, but it reminds me of that old General Chaos game on Genesis. Do you guys remember that one? No? Just me? Okay, moving on. The Game Pass refresh for the back end of February dropped, and it's not too shabby. Headlined, of course, by the intriguing Atomic Heart. I will let you know that I have played this one already as part of a preview process, and I was impressed. There were definitely some question marks I had about it that I'll get to the bottom of in the review process, but I really went in thinking that this wouldn't play as good as it looked. But I was pleasantly surprised to learn that I was mistaken. I will be reviewing this one this week ahead of its launch next week. Yet another reason to hit that subscribe button. This one drops day one on Game Pass when it launches on the 21st. It's Super Bowl season, so it's rather fitting that Madden 23 arrives on Game Pass. Shadow Warrior 3 makes a current gen console debut, and that too is day one Game Pass. And for the more strategically minded, City Skyline Remastered is available, as is medieval strategy RPG hybrid Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord. This is a real juggernaut in the medieval sim pantheon, so if you're at all interested in that stuff, be sure to check it out. Last shout out is a rumor, but it's one worth mentioning. Ubisoft Plus may be joining Game Pass soon. Ubisoft Plus is, of course, Ubisoft's subscription service that gives you access to a huge amount of their back catalog. So if you've ever wanted a subscription service made up of 12 Far Cry games and 33 Assassin's Creed games and a handful of other titles, then this is the one for you. It was a while ago that Ubisoft announced that their service was coming to Game Pass, but now it looks as though Microsoft are getting the back-end infrastructure in place for that, as a number of new icons have appeared in the Xbox file structure that hint at Ubi and Microsoft consummating their relationship. No specific word on when this will happen, but if you were weighing a Ubisoft purchase over the next while, you may want to wait just a little longer. Our feel-good story for the week is kind of feel-good, but also sort of not. We spoke earlier about the Nintendo Direct that happened this week. They're always an exciting affair, as Nintendo rarely disappoint, but one California State University student was a little more excited than most. The student was so hyped for this Direct that they emailed their professor about it, saying that a once-in-a-lifetime event was about to take place and urging that professor to cancel class for the good of humanity. The only problem was the student did not specify that they were talking about a Nintendo Direct. So a teacher got an email from a random student saying, "Hey man, something big is gonna go down tomorrow. You should cancel class." Needless to say, campus security were informed of the situation and they were a little concerned. After some investigation though, security did get to the bottom of it, issuing a statement saying, quote, "After hours of investigation by our detectives, we learned of a Nintendo Direct event that would occur at the exact date and time the individual suggested classes be cancelled. The individual, believed to be a CSUF student, then reached back out to the professor via email admitting it was a bad joke regarding the Nintendo Direct event," end quote. So there you have it, kids. Don't be fucking weird and email your teachers about Nintendo Directs. They don't care, and they will probably just call the police on you. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the show for the week, and let me tell you, we have got some big content lined up. In the coming days, I'm going to drop my review for Wild Hearts. I have finished Like a Dragon Ishin, and I'll have a review for that up too. The next edition of the Friends Per Second podcast is going up this weekend, and soon after that, we should have a review live for Atomic Heart. This is likely to be the most stacked week of content I'm going to do this whole year, and I'm very pumped for it. After that, I'm headed to Japan actually for something super secret, but believe me when I tell you, I'm very excited to talk about that trip. And when I am back, It is Lightfall. Holy shit, I can't believe it's nearly here. Did you see that 5,000 word blog post they put up, by the way? Mwah! Absolute chef's kiss, that one. Okay, we're done here. Before you go, please like the video, subscribe, ding the bell, leave a comment with something nice or something mean. It doesn't really matter either way. Thank you for stopping by, and a big thanks to this week's sponsor, Honey. Okay, so hopefully my reviews have saved you some cash over the years. Stuff is expensive, man, and I'm always glad when I can help save you $1 or 70. That's why I was excited about this video's sponsor, Honey, because there is no single better way to save money when shopping online than with Honey. So what is Honey, you ask? Well, you know how when you're shopping online, there's often a field letting you enter a discount code, and you think to yourself, man, wouldn't it be cool if there was just a big list of discount codes I could search somewhere? Well, that is essentially what Honey is. It is a giant database of discount codes that everyone is always adding to. It's like crowdsourcing promo codes. And when it comes time to check out, you just click the Honey button in your browser. Honey will then automatically search through its database of discount codes, and if one is active, it will automatically apply that code and the discount. So for example, here's the SteelSeries website. Let's say you want to grab a pair of Nova Pro wireless headphones, recommended retail $409.98. Now at checkout, we click the Honey button, it will search and apply any available promo code, and boom, you have just saved $45.60 by clicking a button. For real. You might ask, what's the catch? Well, there is no catch. This is a 100% free tool. I've used it for years now, and it has saved me hundreds of dollars. I don't know how Honey make their money, but they don't make it by skimming you. All of the discounts that Honey finds for you are passed on to you in full, no exceptions. To get started, click the link below and that'll direct you to a landing page. After that, click the top right-hand corner where it says Add Honey to Chrome. It's free. There on the Chrome Web Store, you'll see that this app has over 10 million users and a 4.8 rating with over 160,000 reviews counted. Just click the Add to Chrome button and you're in business. I don't have many browser extensions installed, but this is one that I would never not have installed on my browser. I was really pumped when Honey reached out to sponsor this video because I've loved using their product over the years and it has saved me a ton of cash. If you want to start saving, then visit joinhoney.com/skillup or just click the link below. Thanks Honey for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.